and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. 2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News. The People's
Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
we need and benefit greatly from those who extend the hand of friendship to us, especially in a time of need.
The King is back. Long live the King. And
no, I fully intend to not just win that vote, but I intend to fight to make sure that the government stays up, not just the government continues to deliver on the priorities of the people.
Humza Yousaf's P45 is in the post. And this is the face of the Al-Qaeda terror chief who could be roaming Britain's streets by June. Plus,
so because I've questioned about the church not acting on the behalf of Christians, you're now turning up here with mental health nurses, assuming that I'm some right-wing nut.
Wait till you see that full footage. I interview the man accosted by police for speaking out against Islamist terrorism. And Irish riots over migrant hotels, plus
with my experience, I think Rwanda is safer than London. I feel safe walking around in Kigali.
The truth about the Rwanda plan. On my panel tonight it is ex-BBC and ITV political chief John Sargent. We've got apprentice finalist and entrepreneur Joanna Jarju and journalist and broadcaster Alex Armstrong. Oh yes, and can you tell what's happening here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. The terrorist is even worse than the hook-handed cleric. Next.
Good evening from the GB Newsroom. I'm Tamsin Roberts. Here are the top stories. The Prime Minister has welcomed the news King Charles is returning to public-facing duties following the positive effect of his cancer treatment. A palace spokesperson says King Charles is greatly encouraged to be resuming some public-facing duties and very grateful to his medical team. He's been receiving outpatient care since February for an undisclosed form of cancer. Rishi Sunak posted on X that it was brilliant news to the end of the week. These well-wishers outside Buckingham Palace agree.
Yeah, it's great news. I mean, it was sad to hear about the cancer diagnosis and what with him and Catherine coming at the same time. So it's great that he's on the mend.
We'll be happy to be out and about and everyone, you know, seeing that he's in good health.
It's good news for him, I suppose, and it's quite favourable news for the nation, I suppose.
The families of 3 men murdered in the Reading terror attack are calling for urgent change after a coroner ruled their deaths were probably avoidable. Friends James Furlong, Dr David Wales and Joseph Ritchie Bennett were fatally stabbed in June 2020 when Libyan refugee Khairi Sadala targeted them in a town centre park. The coroner said failings by the Home Office and the local NHS community mental health team contributed to their deaths. James Furlong's father, Gary, said he has very little confidence that an attack like this will not happen again. Humza Yousaf says he will not resign as Scotland's First Minister ahead of a crucial test of his leadership next week. He says that as a minority government, his party will need to make some concessions as it negotiates with other parties. It's after the collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deal with the Greens yesterday. But Humza Yousaf says he'll fight on.
I fully intend to not just win that vote, but I intend to fight to make sure that the government stays up, not just the government continues to deliver on the priorities of the people, like, for example, investing in affordable housing. So there's all that political game playing happening from the opposition. Will not be taking part in it. We'll be getting, of course, on with the job. And when the vote comes, I fully intend to win.
The Foreign Office has summoned the Russian ambassador after a British man was allegedly recruited as a Russian spy. 20-year-old Dylan Earle has been charged with conducting hostile activity in the UK to benefit Russia. He's accused of masterminding an arson plot on London businesses. 4 other men were also charged in connection with the same investigation. Those are the top stories, and for all the latest, do sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, though, it's back to Patrick.
You've all heard of the evil hook-handed hate cleric Abu Hamza, the terrorist scumbag allowed to prowl the streets of London, preach at mosques and live in a £1 million council flat. Well, meet Rangzeeb Ahmed. So this guy was Osama bin Laden's top operative in Europe. He was convicted of directing terrorism. He was jailed in 2008 for plotting mass murder and was caught with a book of terror contacts written in invisible ink and a rucksack that contained traces of explosives. It's emerged that this guy has received almost £1 million in legal aid, reportedly, and could now, are you ready? Yep. He could be a free man by June because he's taken part in a de-radicalisation class and now he's up for parole. Do we remember how de-radicalisation classes have gone in the past? Usman Khan managed to convince everyone that he was no longer a rabid jihadi. He stabbed 2 young people to death. In the wake of that, convicted terrorists who'd been released were made to sit lie detector tests. Can we guess what happened? 4 of them were immediately sent back to prison because, shock horror, they hadn't really been de-radicalised. Should we just take a little look at some of Ahmed's back catalogue? Well, according to reports, he was arrested in Indian Kashmir, allegedly fighting for the group Harkat al-Mujahideen. In jail, he was reportedly sent money by Syed Omar Sheikh, the British extremist who went on to murder the journalist Daniel Pearl. After spending 7 years in an Indian jail without charge, he was eventually set free in May 2001. Now, he was born in Rochdale, but split his life between Lancashire and Pakistan. His brother said that he used to keep a kitchen knife under his pillow and essentially described him as behaving like a complete lunatic. He apparently went back to Pakistan to, quote, further his career as an international terrorist. He was eventually sent to prison in Britain, and in 2021, a previous parole attempt was dismissed after he falsely accused prison guards of being racist after they ordered him to obey COVID social distancing rules. In 2020, a damages claim he brought against MI5 and MI6 for colluding in his torture by Pakistani intelligence was thrown out. In 2019, he moaned when his MP3 player was confiscated, despite apparently it being against Sharia law. He tried to get a £45 a week job in a prison-based call centre. Prison bosses have also blocked his bid as well for working in the old cafe area. So he apparently was furious that he was denied a job baking cakes and pizzas for inmates. As recently as September 2022, he was deemed to be too dangerous for release, but now he's gone through a de-radicalisation programme, and maybe he's OK. Now, if anybody from the Parole Board thinks that Osama bin Laden's main man in Europe will ever be safe to walk the streets, then I think they need to be sent for a head scan. Now, a lot of these jihadi lunatics seem to be desperate to meet their maker, don't they? Why don't we just help them get there, in some cases? When it comes to some fanatical Islamists, I think we should be more in favour of execution instead of parole. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. I am joined by ex-BBC and ITV political chief John Sargent. I've got apprentice finalist and entrepreneur Joanna Jarju, and, of course, the journalist and broadcaster Alex Armstrong. Alex, I'll start with you on this. I mean, this guy surely will never be safe to walk the streets, no?
I don't think anyone believes the de-radicalisation programmes actually work, do they? I mean, you've shown evidence of that, Patrick, that people go on to recommit crimes, even if they've gone through prison, which is meant to be a deterrent. And quite frankly, I hope the Parole Board make the right decision and leave him where he is. If I had it my way, Patrick, I would have him deported from the country. I don't think I'd go as far as executions, if I'm being honest with you, for bad speech, let's put it that way, for you know, extremist speech. But I would say to people who come to this country and are born here and want to go to somewhere where their views are going to be perhaps socialised and respected, they should be left out of the country.
John, I've just got in my notes here, you think it's quite difficult. This is a legal position. You can't just say because he's horrible, we can't have him around. I mean, he did want to kill us, John.
Well, no, but it's not... we don't decide these things on the basis of what do we think about this guy? Is he a nice man, a good man, a bad man? No, he's obviously a dreadful man in all sorts of ways. His record shows that. But he was born in Rochdale, he's gone through a system, and you've got to make sure that system is allowed to continue. If you say, well, I know what we do, just take one look at this guy and say, no, don't like him, don't like his face,
he could be locked up indefinitely.
Don't like what he's done. No, but you've got to have some process, that's all. If the Parole Board believe, as they did last time, it wasn't that long ago when they said, no, he shouldn't be released. I agree with you. I'm as sceptical as everyone about this de-radicalisation plan. You think, oh, yeah, what does that mean? You say over and over again, I'm not that keen on you know, Islam.
I've gone off the old jihad stuff, yeah.
You know, I've gone off it. I feel better now about, you know, the king and being here. No, you can't do that. And the Parole Board have got a very difficult job. But they've got to decide. They've got to decide, look, OK, stay in. But what you can't do, we found this with internment in Northern Ireland. I was a reporter in Northern Ireland. Internment was brought in, and the whole thing turned out to be a bit of a shambles. Nobody knew how long they'd be kept. It went on for a long time. It seemed unfair. It built up recruits for the IRA in those years. This would bring up more recruits. You've got to say, look, that we are protecting our values, however much it may cost, whatever the difficulties are. We've got to believe in the law. We've got to believe in a system. Otherwise, it's a council of despair.
Joanna, de-radicalisation, does it work?
I don't believe in de-radicalisation, but I believe in rehabilitation. So I think that when it comes to criminals across the board, I think that people can be rehabilitated. If you've been a thief in the past, maybe you've grown up in a really bad area, whatever your life circumstances, maybe you can be shown that you can be a better person that can integrate into society. Whereas where I draw the line is anybody who's actually been proven to have been involved in terrorism, never mind somebody who was basically, you know, Al-Qaeda's best mate, Osama bin Laden's best mate. That's a completely different kettle of fish. Paedophiles, rapists, people like that, I just think that you should keep them well away from society. And I don't think those type of people can change their minds. Whereas with other people that are criminals, I think that you can rehabilitate them. And in a lot of cases, actually, prison makes people worse criminals.
Yeah, when you had Mizzy on this show, I think you had him on a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like the young man's learned from his experience and he's apologised, and hopefully he'll be a better person from his experience in prison, and he has been rehabilitated. I agree with you, and John, I don't think you can rehabilitate ideological sort of, I'm stuck in my ways. These are really extreme views.
I mean, why should we have to live with the risk? This is the thing. So it's all very well and good saying, oh, you know, maybe we should give this guy a chance. But if we give this guy a chance, other people might die.
No, I don't think it's so much giving him a chance. I mean, what you have a chance of, and what's the point of presumably releasing someone into the outside world, is you follow them. You find out who they're getting in touch with. You find out what lines of, what Al-Qaeda supporters are there, who are they going to, what are they doing. Never forget that, you know, someone may appear to be released, but of course someone like him is always, they'll always keep an eye on him. They're bound.
It's still a risk. You know, look at that attack that you showed a clip of, you know, on the bridge. It can still happen. But what I will say, actually, is that where I draw the line in terms of de-radicalisation is children. So I do believe that in the case of, for example, Shamima Begum, I think that's a completely different case, but this is a grown man that was actively planning things himself rather than, you know, Shamima Begum, which
so you'd keep this guy locked up, but you'd let Shamima Begum walk the streets?
I wouldn't let her walk the streets. I think that she should still be behind bars, but I think that it's more, you've got a higher likelihood of actually de-radicalising her in the sense that she was radicalised as a small, vulnerable, well, not small, but she was a teenager as a child, basically, and groomed in that situation. You've got a much stronger argument for Shamima than what you've got with this guy.
Yeah, there's another point about this, of course. The prison authorities usually like to give somebody some hope so that they can control these prisoners. If you say, look, whatever happens, you're not going to see the light of day. This is it now, forever. It does mean that the prison authorities can't then say, look, you play your cards right.
It's a question of whether or not you would have faith, Alex, that he will be properly monitored on the outside. There was a case of the Streatham attacker. That guy was basically under 24-hour surveillance. And what happened was he managed to run into, I think it was a Boots or something like that, and just grab a knife. And I think nobody died, apart from he was shot in the end, of course. But, you know, it's a question of whether or not the authorities can ever actually keep them safe.
No, I think we all understand that we haven't got the resources in this country to monitor every single person that we release from prison, despite whether they're dangerous or not, or radicals or whatever it is. What really worries me is the prison system is seeing a massive rise in people leaving prison as extremists. So they might go in for petty crimes, but they are now being radicalised by people like this man inside prisons and are coming out and committing those terrorist offences. So how do we deal with this in the prison system? I don't have an answer for that, but I hope there's someone smart enough out there that does.
More prisons.
No, that's not a bad idea, John. I agree with you.
More prisons.
I agree.
Yeah, well, we're going to need it. I mean, it's yet another aspect of life. It's not kept up with rapid population growth, has it? You can't not have more prisons to support more people. But anyway, there we go. Look, now still to come. Thank you very much, Christys, by the way. Still to come. We do talk about Humza Yousaf. Yes, his reign as First Minister of Scotland is hanging by a thread. I think that's been quite generous, actually. But next, we will discuss the good news that King Charles is returning to public-facing duties. So the Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, Charlotte Griffiths, she joins me live in the studio. We're also going to be talking to a former butler as well, just trying to get that personal thing. What will the King really be feeling like at the moment? Make sure you stay tuned to Patrick Christys Tonight.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
TfL bosses have come under fire after banning an advert... Oh, God. They've banned an advert for a comedy show because it had a hot dog on it, because that supposedly promotes obesity.
The comedian Ed Gamble has swapped the image of the fast food favourite in favour of a cucumber instead. And there's the cucumber on the plate.
So is the UK turning into a nanny state? Let's talk to former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller, and nutritionist Olivia Parry. Good to see you both this morning. Olivia, it's a comedy show. He's not promoting eating hot dogs, is he? Is this just a load of nonsense?
The thing is, we have a huge problem with overweight and obesity in this country. We're fourth in Europe. It's big business. Advertising for food companies is big business. They make so much money. You just have to switch on primetime TV to watch, food after food advertisements. And it's for the youngsters as well, who don't have the nutritional education. We're not taught cookery in school anymore. People go to college and to university, they don't know how to cook.
But
and it leads
forgive me for jumping in, Olivia. Forgive me for jumping in, but the whole point with this is it's an advert for a comedy show.
Yes, I know, but this is a wider issue.
I think it's a load of old tosh, to be quite honest with you. It's a hot dog. In fact, I wish they'd have put onions on the hot dog. A bit of what you fancy won't hurt you. You should eat 80-20 anyway. We talk about a nanny state. I actually think, arguably, we're becoming an authoritarian state. Opinions banned, comedy banned, the England flag banned. It's like we've got to wear a virtual muzzle.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday, the 2nd of May,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections.
We'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis.
And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we.
We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday, the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News. 2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task. This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight on GB News. Now, Buckingham Palace have announced that the King will return to public-facing duties this week. Shall we have a little quick look through the statement, shall we? So, Buckingham Palace gave the update on the King's return to public-facing duties in that statement today. They said it is too early to say for how much longer his treatment will continue. It added that doctors were very encouraged, though, by the progress made so far. They remain positive about the King's continued recovery. The type of cancer has not been publicly disclosed, but the King's medical team are sufficiently pleased with the progress made so far that the King is now able to resume a number of public-facing duties. So he's going to be going to a cancer treatment centre. He's also going to be welcoming envoys from Japan, as well, at the request of Rishi Sunak, and a few other bits and bobs as well. Joining me now to discuss this is Charlotte Griffiths, the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday. Charlotte, thank you very, very much. So, what did you make from reading this statement then? I mean, I suppose it's broadly good news.
I think it's broadly good news. It's obviously intended to be a huge boost to our confidence and happiness and faith in the royal family. And it's not that I think it's covering anything up. I just think it stops short of saying he's in remission, because he's not yet in remission and the treatment will be ongoing. So, in some ways it's really positive. He's obviously well enough to go to events in June. So they're planning for an event, in 2 months' time. And I think we can look positively at that as, encouraging.
And I think one of those that he's particularly keen on is Ascot, is that right?
Yeah, I revealed on Sunday that he's going to Ascot because So you can never keep an aristo away from the season. The season is June, which is when all these swanky events happen. So one of the first things that, came to me was that he was going to go to Royal Ascot. And that's when I started thinking, OK, well, if he's going to go to Royal Ascot, he's probably going to do some more serious things, such as Trooping of the Colour. We don't know yet, but maybe he'll do D-Day celebrations. But he was determined to go to Royal Ascot because it was his mother's favourite event, and she never, ever missed a single one until actually the very end of her life, in her whole reign. So he, I think, to honour his mum's memory, is determined to go, and it's a big event. It lasts all day and it takes 5 days. So let's see how many days he attends for.
I think there's a way of keeping him quite protected, isn't there, really, there?
Yeah, so the guidance I was getting was that it's the absolutely perfect event for where he's at now, because he kind of has to do a bubble COVID-style arrangement. And in Royal Ascot, there's a huge, big glass box where everyone can see him. But, of course, because of the glass, he's not going to be inhaling an entire racecourse's worth of germs while his immune system is compromised. So that's perfect. And then the other thing about it is he goes on this carriage ride, which is an open-top carriage ride. And he can wave at everyone and, be in the spirit of this incredibly glamorous royal event, but without basically breathing in the germs of everyone.
Yeah.
So it's a good event.
And the other way of reading this, which is the truth, OK, is that he is now living with cancer. Right, you mentioned there, it didn't say anywhere that he's in remission yet, because it doesn't sound like he is. And so this is a man who is not getting any younger, who is living with cancer, which I think is still concerning to people, isn't it, really?
I think it's concerning. I think probably we're all wanting them to say, by the way, he's going to be in remission, he's got exactly this long, left, but you just can't. You can't predict that. But I think, I think he's itching to get back to events, and he's got that really strong mental attitude that's, not everybody does have when they're going through cancer, and he's just determined to get out there. And he probably doesn't know how long he's got left, could be years, who knows. But he's, he's determined to just live his life and keep going. And he knows what his mother always told him, which is that you have to be seen to be believed if you're a member of the royal family. And in the void of seeing royals, we know what happens. Conspiracy theories develop, and we all start getting paranoid. And the number of people that must have asked you have asked me, is it true? He's only got X amount of time to live. And actually, by being out and about, I think that will stop all that sort of mad speculation.
Yeah, and it's potentially a busy summer, isn't it, really? Because we've got the anniversary of the coronation as well, I think. And so would you expect him to be doing something for that? They've said that he might be, for example. So, I mean, presumably he's going to be doing, a fair bit about that, I would have thought. Yeah,
well, the year on from the coronation, I think a lot of this is actually brought on by the fact it's coming up to a year of since the coronation. I think that's kind of the impetus behind all this. And that's why he released his photo, which was also to celebrate 19 years that he's been married to Camilla, quite a long time. Yes. So I think all of this is about that. All of this is about how he started his reign, and then he had to do a hard stop just when he was getting going. And now he's done his thing, and he wants to just get going again and start being king,
I think fundamentally good news for Britain as well. This is the thing, because, whichever way you dress this up, at the end of the day, he's a human being, OK? And he obviously had quite a big scare, big health scare, came on top of a few other family health scares as well, so it all was on top at the same time. And, for him to now be having undergone treatment and still be going through treatment, but be able to kind of go out and about, I think gives a lot of hope for a lot of people, especially at this time we've got a lot of NHS waiting lists at record levels and all of that. Yeah. I think it can give a lot of hope to a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's exactly why he's going next week to a cancer hospital to meet other cancer patients and give them hope, because, he's not looking too frail. I mean, I know people that have had cancer and treatment made them very frail very quickly, but he's not. He looks fine in that picture he released today. He's lost a little bit of weight, but he's certainly looking pretty sort of sturdy, to be honest. So he may as well get out there, offer some hope to people and say, look, I'm one of you, I'm going through this as well.
And also soft power, soft diplomacy, which is one thing that I think the royal family does absolutely perfectly. If he's meeting the leaders of Japan as well at the request of Rishi Sunak, I think that bodes incredibly well, really. And that's, again, great for Britain on the world stage. I think even some of the royal family's biggest detractors can't really deny that they are a great tool when it comes to Britain's power. So that would be good. One thing that really stood out to me, though, with this was announcing that he's going to do, by the sounds of it, a raft of public appearances and public engagements. I looked at it and I thought, I really hope that this Not My King brigade and the Republicans just leave him alone for this, because at the end of the day, they are looking at an older man who is still got cancer. And they shouldn't be going out and about and shouting at him, I don't think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he'll be protected to some extent by the fact that the kind of events he's going to are things like Royal Ascot. You know, he's going to be in the Royal Enclosure, it's members only. Other events, you know, maybe they'll show up at this cancer event next week, but I really hope they do leave him alone. They absolutely have to. I mean, this is a man who is overcoming the personal challenge of going through cancer treatment. And then to fall at the final hurdle by being abused out in public would just be horrendous. So, yeah, I hear you on that. But I do think they'll be careful to find events where, you know, random members of the public won't just be able to bowl up to him and hold placards.
I think they must be confident, though. You know, they must be confident because if he was to make this announcement and if he was to go to one or two things and then retreat again, I don't think you'd make an announcement like the one that you made today unless you were pretty confident that he was, you know, on the other side of this thing and that there was going to be a way of managing this going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they are announcing basically about 2 events at a time. So we know the next 2 and then we'll probably find out another 2. But that's his aides being cautious. I honestly think, Charles, if you let him out, he'd go to everything. He'd probably turn up at Glastonbury if you let him. He's itching to go out. So they must be really confident. And he is obviously instilling in his aides this confidence by saying to them, I just want to get cracking. And it's actually the aides, from what I gather and conversations I've had, it's them that are sort of saying, oh, hold on. Probably predicting the same thing as you. What if he does a couple of things and then he has to row back? But I just don't think Charles thinks that'll happen. I think he thinks he can keep going all summer.
And just finally as well, I wonder if this takes the heat off Kate a little bit.
I think so. I mean, it's certainly something we're like leaving alone at the moment because just Kate's strategy is totally different to Charles's. Charles has always been pretty open. He's issued these Q&As to the press every once in a while, and actually he's played it really well. Whereas Kate's situation has developed so fast, and you know, she had the photo shop gate. So I just think the whole strategy is slightly different there. So, you know, I think it does take the heat off Kate. And probably that's half the reason he's doing it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is leadership. It is leadership. He is leading the family. He's doing it as best as he can. And obviously we do all look for him. And, you know, taking that statement at face value, it is a massive step in the right direction. So, Charlotte, thank you very, very much. Great to have you on the show and have your insight and wisdom there. Charlotte Griffiths, the editor-at-large at The Mail on Sunday. Look, coming up, we will speak to the man who suggested to his priest that Christians should rise up and take a stand. This was over Islamist attacks. He was rewarded with a visit from 2 police officers and a mental health volunteer for his trouble, so I'm looking forward to chatting to him. But next, former SNP councillor Austin Sheridan voted for Humza Yousaf. Is he regretting it now the First Minister has reduced the country to chaos? Stay tuned.
Hello again, good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another cold night tonight and rain will spread into the south and east through this weekend with the best of the dry weather around the north and west once again, much as it has been throughout this week. But to the south we've got low pressure arriving and some weather fronts through this evening. So for some heavy rain for many southern counties of England through this evening as well as southern areas of Wales by tomorrow morning. There's going to be a lot of cloud around. So it will be a milder night across the south. However, in the north, with cloud clearing and it turning much drier, it's going to be another cold start on Saturday morning. We could be down as low as -4 or 5. So expect frost rurally for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there will be, as today, lots of sunshine around, particularly across the north and west. The best of the sunshine will be through the morning. Cloud will bubble up into the afternoon. But across central areas, parts of Wales and into the Midlands, it's going to be quite a cloudy and cold feeling day. And into the southeast, we'll start to see some showery outbreaks of rain. But in any sunshine, it will start to feel that much milder with highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Now on Sunday, as I said, it is turning much wetter. This swathe of rain moves up to the north and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
A man who worked for Sainsbury's for 20 years was sacked because he didn't pay for a few bags for life. Niamke Dofu put his shopping through a self-service checkout after his night shift, and CCTV showed him choosing the 0 bags used option, and he was fired for gross misconduct. Well, joining me now to discuss this in our studio is the lawyer and broadcaster and great friend of the show, Andrew Eborn. Andrew, welcome to the studio.
Join you, Martin.
Certainly is. Now, on the one hand,
yes,
he was caught banged to rights on CCTV. It looked like, and the tribunal agreed, he stole the bags, but a 20-year career dashed on the rocks over 60p?
Yeah, I mean, the headlines are horrendous, aren't they? You sort of turn around on that sort of basis. So basically, there must be a valid reason for dismissing an employee, and you have to follow due process and so on and so forth. So they can look at about capability or conduct. And there has to be appropriate procedures set in place under employment law to afford that sort of protection. What they say, however, if there's gross misconduct, you can be dismissed instantly.
Yeah.
Now, gross misconduct includes criminal offence like theft. And the reality is, in the law, if you take property, whatever its value, with the intent of permanently depriving the person of it, then that is theft. And so what they did, they looked at the CCTV footage, and the Employment Tribunal had a look at this sort of stuff, and the guy wasn't just pressed no bags, he went backwards and forwards and so on and so forth. So he knew he was getting bags, and what they sort of turned in, I always sort of trust comes in on foot, but leaves on horseback. And so what Sainsbury's are saying in their defence is, hang on, we lost trust in the guy, even though 20 years and so on and so forth. We need to make sure we have trust in our employees.
Do you think they've thrown the book at him, thrown the bag at him, to make all of us worry about us being watched by CCTV? Is this fella a scapegoat?
Oh, I think without doubt it's a story and a warning for everybody.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Will Humza Yousaf be the First Minister this time next week? Yousaf was defiant today, so here is his reaction when asked if he intended to resign.
No, I fully intend to not just win that vote, but I intend to fight to make sure that the government stays up, not just the government continues to deliver on the priorities of the people, like, for example, investing in affordable housing. So there's all that political game playing happening from the opposition. It will not be taking part. It will be getting, of course, on with the job. And when the vote comes, I fully intend to win.
Well, we'll see about that, won't we? The vote next week could not be tighter. So in a nutshell, Humza needs all of the SNP people, plus his former leadership rival and SNP defector Ash Regan to vote for him to survive. So any less than that, and it looks a lot like he'll be toast. So Alba, the other party, one of the other parties, their insiders, have said that her demands could include the Scottish Government ditching their gender recognition reforms completely, which would be, significant, really, for Humza Yousaf to do that, wouldn't it? And raise serious questions about whether or not he was only ever doing that for political gain, which is ironic given the way it's panned out. But to discuss this now, I am joined by former SNP councillor Austin Sheridan. Austin, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. Now, I understand that you voted for Humza Yousaf. I'm just going to ask, when you voted for him, when he was Transport Minister, he was fined for driving without the correct insurance, when he was Health Minister, 1 in 7 Scots were on an NHS waiting list, he missed the vote on gay marriage, there was the old ferry disaster, crime has risen when he was Justice Minister. Why did you vote for him?
Well, first of all, Humza Yousaf did vote in favour of equal marriage, just to make the viewers aware of that. But the reason I voted for Humza Yousaf is because he promised to continue the SNP on a progressive agenda. He stood on a commitment to maintaining the Butte House Agreement, which I was in favour of. So lots of members of the SNP were persuaded by those arguments, and it turns out that the majority of those who voted in favour of Humza Yousaf becoming leader, they voted for him based on those principles. What I find very concerning is that if you look at the arithmetic of the Scottish Parliament, is that it would seem to me that the Green Party are the only viable party that the SNP can work with, because we certainly can't work with the Conservative Party. We can't work with Labour because they fight for the same ground that the SNP do in the electoral contests. The Liberal Democrats under the leadership of Alex Cole-Hamilton are very much anti-SNP. So all that would leave you with would be the Green Party or the backwards thinking party of Alex Salmond, which is the Alapa party, and they've had candidates which I feel, have expressed racism, have expressed homophobia, have expressed transphobia, and that's certainly not a party that a member like myself would feel comfortable working with.
So he's toast then?
I don't think he's toast. I think that what he has to do is, I mean, my understanding from today's interview, which I must admit, right, if we're being honest, I believe that Humza Yousaf's made a massive political misjudgment if he felt that the Greens were going to be, okay, with how this was dealt with. But certainly up until the confidence vote, if I were Humza Yousaf, I would certainly be refocusing my efforts on speaking to the Scottish Greens, on trying to build up a constructive working relationship, because what I do know is that members like myself who are committed to a progressive agenda certainly won't accept working with Alex Salmond's Arapa party. And if Humza Yousaf does win the confidence vote from the support of Alex Salmond's Arapa party, he may win that vote, but there will certainly be lots of SNP members who will not accept that, and they'll find that intolerable. And I'm one of those members who would find working with Arapa intolerable. But what I would also question as well is who exactly was advising Humza Yousaf, to take this measure. And there's been speculation, that Stephen Flynn, the Westminster leader, my understanding is that he was in Holyrood on Wednesday speaking to MSPs, and I would be really interested to know exactly what he was discussing with them, and if what's been done has been in Humza Yousaf's best interest, because I don't believe that he's been advised properly, and he's certainly found himself in a terrible position.
I've got to be honest here. I mean, I rattled off a few things there before. I actually just wonder if he's always been a dud. I mean, there's a case to say this guy's failed upwards, really, in everything. And since he's been First Minister, he's reportedly overseen the contraction of the Scottish economy, missed A&E targets, NHS waiting lists which have increased apparently 9.5% on the year before he took over. He's wasted a load of money, 134 grand on 9 independence papers, a rise in violent and sexual offences, and more than 12,400 train cancellations. I mean, you might care about the progressive stuff. I think most people care more about that stuff, don't they?
Well, I think that this is a point as well, is that if we're going to make an attempt, to say that the Green Party, right, are to blame for all the shortfalls, that would be deeply mistaken. I mean, clearly, there's been mistakes in the part of the SNP as well, and this is just me being honest and being very frank, right? There's no point in dressing things up. But in terms of Humza's leadership, he took over the SNP in very difficult circumstances, and I believe that that overall, he's faced a number of challenges that he inherited. I believe that he has dealt with them to the best of his ability, and for myself, I've known Humza since I was 15 years old. I'm 31 years old now. Humza's not much older than me, so I've known Humza, for almost half his life. He's known me for half of my life, and I know that he's a genuine, straight-up guy, and I know that he genuinely cares and he believes in public service. However, I think that what's happened over the past few days has been a clear error of political judgment. I think that to deny that,
but it's another error.
Would be disingenuous. I think that now he has to focus on fixing those errors, because if not, if he doesn't fix those errors, he will be facing a revolt within his own party. And unfortunately, if he decides to do a deal with Alex Salmond's Arapa party, I'll be one of those people who will be calling for his resignation.
Yeah. I mean, it's another error of judgment, though, isn't it? I mean, going to Qatar a couple of months after Hamas invaded Israel was an error of judgment.
Well, as I say, when it comes to the Middle East, there are a whole range of issues there, right? And if it comes to having diplomatic relations, if it comes to speaking to people on both sides, then I'm all for that. But if we're talking about the current political circumstances, the way that he's dealt with the Butte House agreement, if the agreement had to end, right? I mean, if people wanted the agreement to end, not necessarily, right? The worst thing in the world. I think the problem with how he's went about it and how he's dealt with it, because the Scottish Green Party were due to have a debate, were due to let their members vote on the future of that agreement. If Humza Yousaf felt that the SNP were going to withdraw from that agreement, it may have been a more sensible course of action to have allowed SNP members, the rank and file members, to actually have a say. But the fact that he decided to pull the rug out from under the two leaders of the Green Party, Patrick Harvey and Lorna Souter, and they actually said that they were going to put their leadership of their party on the line in order to save this agreement. So the fact that he's done that, no wonder that the Green Party feel deeply aggrieved by what's happened. And I must admit, as somebody who is a massive champion, Hamza Yusuf, and you know that, and I still hope that he can save his leadership. But if he doesn't recognise that that's an error of judgment, then that's a major problem. But then I would also, who were the outside influences to that? Because there must have been people advising him, that have been giving him, some pretty poor advice.
What leadership are you going into bat for here, though? I mean, this guy's hate crime stuff, he had more reports apparently about himself than J.K. Rowling in the first few days. Police Scotland have been crippled over this and they've got to investigate every single... I mean, that's ridiculous what he's done there. The Labour Party have now overtaken the SNP in Scotland for the first time in quite a while. Independence looks dead in the water. I mean, why are you still going over the top for this guy?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, every single party in the Scottish Parliament, backed the hate crime legislation, apart from the Conservatives. So let's put things in perspective there. It's not just the SNP. Every single political party backed that, apart from the Tories. In terms of independence, I mean, independence polling, I mean, despite maybe, ups and downs in SNP polling, independence polling, has been consistent. It is still sitting, almost 50-50. And that's not changed. So despite any SNP polling, independence and the Scottish National Party, are both very separate things. But what I do recognise, and what I do think that we do need a refocus on, is good governance. And in order to win independence, we need to ensure that the leading pro-independence party, which is the Scottish National Party, can govern.
Come on, what's he done right, Austin? Come on, let's round this off. What's he done right?
What's he done right? Well, he's done lots of things right. I mean, for example, giving free travel to under 22s, for example, I think was a fantastic policy. And then just today, he has announced £80 million, back into affordable housing. And so even despite everything that's happened, we are looking at what he's doing today, and he's still pursuing progressive policies. But what the test is for members like me is, will he continue to pursue those?
But those are unpopular. This is why he's in such a difficult place. He's got rid of the Green stuff.
If he watches to the right and does a deal with Alex Salmond's Arab Party, I'm afraid for members like me, it's game over. And that is my stark message to him.
All right, OK. Look, I'm from the north of England. I'm renowned for being a little bit tight. I won't use the old lazy Scottish stereotype. But if you're willing to put a tenner on here, is he still First Minister this time next week?
I hope he will be, and I hope we'll do the right thing.
Think he will
to the Green Party, and I hope we'll get a working relationship.
So he's going to, all right. So he'd have to give in to the Greens. He'd have to give in to the Greens and give in to all of their demands. He'd have to reverse ferret. He'd have to completely reverse ferret.
It's not about giving in. What it's about is compromise. Now, in the Scottish Parliament, there's no party that has a majority. So what you have to look at is the facts on the ground. And the only political party that I can see that would be willing to work constructively with the SNP would be the Green Party. The Tories aren't interested, Labour aren't interested, the Liberals aren't interested, and Alex Salmond's Arab Party aren't worth touching with a barge pole. They're racist, they're homophobes, and they're transphobic, and that is certainly not a political party that I would want to be associated with.
OK. Well, the Alba Party are not here to defend themselves. But, Austin, thank you very, very much. Austin Sheridan there, former SNP councillor. Well, look, what's your takeaway from that? I think it's a struggle for Humza, isn't it? Look, coming up at 10, following today's news about King Charles, are the anti-monarchists finally going to give it a rest? I will ask my brilliant panel how long Humza Yusuf has left as well. And we just had a staunch defence of him there from Austin Sheridan, who's fighting the good fight for him. But next, we meet the man accosted by police for speaking out against Islamist terrorism. We've got a video clip of what happened to him. You'll not want to miss it. I'll see you in a tick.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the quaint Derbyshire village of Sudbury, there's a storm brewing between the local football club and the National Trust. This grass field might seem unremarkable, but for hundreds of years it's been part of the Sudbury Hall estate, playing host to the village football and cricket matches. Now the National Trust are planning to put an end to that tradition in the name of biodiversity, with plans for trees and plants where the football club play. Some worry it breaks a memorandum of wishes from the late Lord Vernon, whose family have lived here since 1660. Manager of Sudbury FC Tom Crutchley says he's upset at the decision.
Naturally disappointed. We've been here, this is our 9th year. We've put a lot of effort into here to keep playing, to maintain it. I'm from the village originally, so personally it was, it is very upsetting.
MP for Derbyshire Dale Sarah Dines says the National Trust aren't respecting the history of the site.
I feel they're trampling over the wishes of historic owners who gave up this wonderful site for the nation. And for over 100 years people have played football and cricket here. It's incredibly sad. Incredibly sad, and it's against the wishes of a lot of people locally who've written to me from the village.
Sudbury Hall lives under the branding of the Children's Country House, a decision which Dines says is disrespectful to the history of the estate.
I mean, this is fake to make it into a children's theme park. It's almost a reimagining, and in fact that's the very words it says on their website. The house is reopened, it's been reimagined. I don't want our heritage to be reimagined. I think the National Trust has been captured by people who have different ideas than most people in this country.
Whilst the public will still be able to roam these historic grounds, the village feels like a legacy is being snatched away. Jack Carson, GB News, Sudbury.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight on GB News. Now, young father of 3, John Joe Hooper, was overheard this week telling his local priest in a private conversation saying that Christians needed to rise up and take a stand. So the day after, a bishop was reportedly stabbed in a Sydney church by a teenage Islamist. OK, so that's the context here. Not even 24 hours later, 2 Sussex police officers and a senior NHS mental health worker decided to pay Mr Hooper a visit. And, well, here's the footage.
People have raised concerns.
What concerns?
About your views.
What views?
That you've got concerns about what's going on in Australia.
Yeah, so I'm an Orthodox Christian. Now you've turned up at my house because I went and see my priest. So because I've questioned about the church not acting on the behalf of Christians, you're now turning up here with mental health nurses, assuming that I'm some right-wing nutter.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that John Joe Hooper joins me now. John Joe, thank you very much. So go on then, just tell us a little bit more about what happened then. So what were you doing? You were talking to your priest and you said something about rising up, did you? And then the police at the door. Go on.
No, well, what happened was I went to the priest just to speak, like spiritual advice, purely what it was for. Half hour with him, spoke about what's going on with Christians in like Lebanon, Palestine, Pakistan, Nigeria, like all over. It is happening.
Yeah.
Conversation we had along them lines. Said you need to take a stand. Spoke about the LGB in the church as well. I'm allowed to speak about that with the priest. I just said to him, what's your opinion? You want to talk about it? Next thing you know, police turn up.
I mean, you are right that Christians all over the world are being persecuted, in some cases executed, actually, and there does appear to be very little outrage or media coverage about that, which is remarkable when you see the way that certain other groups of people are treated as well. So why did the police come then? Come on, so what was it that you said that they were particularly concerned about, and who tipped them off as well?
Taking a stand, that's why. That's the specific reason they turned up, is because I said Christians should rise up and take a stand. Just be counted and heard. I didn't call for violence, and I'm surprised you didn't play the rest of the footage, because there's a good 6 minutes on Twitter, and I know why you won't play it. So anyone wants to go and look, they can find
Genuinely, because we haven't got the time. Is there a particular bit of that footage that you want to just tell us all about now? Because you're more than welcome to.
No, well, it's the fact that they allow hate preachers into the country, preaching the killing of homosexuals. God knows what else that goes on. And then you turn up on my door because I spoke to the priest in confidence.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the priest. The police said that it was someone's overheard the conversation. So I don't know what to believe.
Well, so conceivable. He's taking it at face value, which might be a bit tricky, I suppose. You say that someone's overheard the conversation and that they've decided to take a stand. I mean, you make a good point, which is that we can hear every single week. I play quite regularly on this show clips of certain things that maybe go on in certain mosques, for example, or certain things that you hear at Speaker's Corner, which I would argue are, well, I mean, borderline illegal, actually. You don't really see the police turning up there, do you? So why do you think that they knocked on your door?
It's easier to be biased against Christians than it is any other religion. We all know this. I don't need to say it live on air. You yourself know. Everyone in the country knows. It's okay to persecute Christians, disrespect Christianity. Can't disrespect other religion. Got to stop. It's getting silly now.
And when you said things like taking a stand, like you said there, you know, you're not calling for violence, you're not causing for any kind of, violent action, I suppose. And you made that clear to the police, from what I gather, from what I've seen in the clip. How have they left it with you then? I mean, are you on some kind of watch list now?
No, well, I've got 22 minutes. A journalist came from another newspaper. It's online. I'm not sure. I think it might have been the Mail. They see the full 22 minutes, and even they didn't write it up in their newspaper correctly. The police specifically said there was no violence in it. You can even see them saying that on the Twitter videos as well. I had to post it. I had no choice to. Who would believe you? God's honest truth. Who would believe you? Oh, I went to see my priest the other day. I had a conversation about faith, and the next thing you know, I've got police and mental health nurses saying that. Who would believe it if it wasn't filmed?
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, just understand. What do you think it says about Britain, though? Seriously, I mean, we've got huge amounts of problems going on. I think I did a report yesterday. You've got crimes like shoplifting's at an all-time high, for goodness' sake. You've got all of this stuff, and here we are in a Christian country. You having a conversation with the priest, and the police and the mental health workers at your door. I mean, it's bonkers, really, isn't it?
I don't think it was the priest. I reckon it is what they said. But the only person that I gave my name to was the priest. The police officers were fine, to be fair. They were quite nice. They didn't hardly do any of the talking. It was the nurse that done most of the talking. And it's coercive behaviour. If you listen to the footage, it's passive-aggressive questioning, trying to coerce a situation. I've had no repercussions from the police or anything like that. I've made the complaint to the police. I'm trying to complain to a group called Parole. There's something to do with patient and liaison, but I'm not getting nowhere with that. I had no choice but to put this out there. I've been a nervous wreck for days. Look, I've gone pale as a ghost now. I feel sick doing this.
It's an important thing. Sorry to cut across you, Roger, but I think that's a really important point to get across, actually, because this affects people, right? I mean, this affects when police knock on your door and, a mental health worker turns up and all of that stuff. It does have an impact on you, right? You'd have to be, really unhinged if that didn't affect you in some way, shape or form. You mentioned there that you think it is quite coercive behaviour. I'm inclined to agree with that, and I do feel for you. I do hope that you're all right. I mean, are you still quite worked up about it all, or are you getting over it now?
Well, it depends now. It all depends on what whoever sees this, because this is going to be broadcast to millions. Again, it's been seen millions of times already, but I don't know. It's like the quiet before the storm, if you know what I mean. I know I've put my head above the parapet and I'm expecting arrows to come my way, because this is going to offend a lot of people that are in charge in this country right now.
Let's have it right then.
I haven't been, I don't want to interrupt you, I really don't want to sound abruptive, but I've been contacted by none of the proper mainstream media, the BBC, the Sky News, and I know if this has been seen millions, and they're talking about it in America. I had to put out a statement on Twitter because they're confusing it, saying I posted on social media. I didn't. So there's already people that are using it for their own agendas. I get that. So this is more to just clear up the point. This is about Christians.
Yeah,
I'm getting messages from guys in Lebanon. So.
Well, look, John Joe. I wish we could. I'm fast approaching the end of the hour, right? I would love to continue to talk to you more, but what I will say is, you are, I think, echoing the views of a lot of people, which is that you see Christians persecuted all over the world, and there doesn't appear to be too much front-footedness from a lot of Christian figures about this.
Just before I go, this isn't just about the Christians, though, man. This is happening. This is the English working class are getting it as well. This needs to be spoken about. It's not fair.
All right.
Have a nice night.
John Joe, sorry to cut you off, but thank you very much. He's gone anyway. John Joe Hooper there. Right, look, a Sussex police spokesman says Sussex police were made aware of concerns, and I'll read the full extent of their reply when I come back. Look, you stay tuned, all right?
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another cold night tonight, and rain will spread into the south and east through this weekend, with the best of the dry weather around the north and west once again, much as it has been throughout this week. But to the south we've got low pressure arriving and some weather fronts through this evening. So for some heavy rain for many southern counties of England through this evening, as well as southern areas of Wales by tomorrow morning. There's going to be a lot of cloud around, so it will be a milder night across the south. However, in the north, with cloud clearing and it turning much drier, it's going to be another cold start on Saturday morning. We could be down as low as -4 or 5, so expect frost rurally for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there will be, as today, lots of sunshine around, particularly across the north and west. The best of the sunshine will be through the morning. Cloud will bubble up into the afternoon. But across central areas, parts of Wales and into the Midlands, it's going to be quite a cloudy and cold feeling day. And into the southeast, we'll start to see some showery outbreaks of rain, but in any sunshine, it will start to feel that much milder, with highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Now on Sunday, as I said, it is turning much wetter. This swathe of rain moves up to the north and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Squatters in London have taken over a pub, which is leased by Gordon Ramsay, no less. The pub is currently up for sale with a guide price of £30 million. It is understood that Kitchen Nightmares host Ramsay called the police on Wednesday, but was unable to have the squatters removed. The Metropolitan Police said in a statement they were made aware of squatters at a disused property, but added, this is a civil matter, and so police did not attend the property. Let's see what my panel make of this. Why can't we just boot squatters out? If we own a property or lease a property, why don't we just boot them out?
I know that's tempting, but the fact is, long-term empty properties have increased by 24% in the last 6 years. There's 1.2 million people on the social housing lists. People don't have a place to live.
What it does highlight is the enormous disparity in fairness in property laws in this country. It's just not fair that if you've worked all your life and invested some money in property because, you know, interest rates at zero and there's nowhere else to invest your money, and then suddenly somebody who's got no claim to that property and doesn't seem to have earned very much in life takes over your property. It's an outrage.
People shouldn't be squatting in other people's homes or commercial properties. But the fact is, until we sort the housing problem in this country, none of this is going to go away. The fact is, people my age won't be able to buy a home unless they've got a bung from their parents.
Yeah, but what's the practicality of this demonstration?
It's not a demonstration.
It's not going to free up more housing for people who are on the streets.
No, of course not. It's people looking to find a place to live. I don't think it's a demonstration at all.
It's an anti-wealth, anti-property owning demonstration by people who've got nothing better to do in life than break into other people's property.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
we need and benefit greatly from those who extend the hand of friendship to us. especially in a time of need.
Are the anti-monarchists finally going to give it a rest? And
no, I fully intend to not just win that vote, but I intend to fight to make sure that the government stays up, not just the government continues to deliver on the priorities of the people.
Useless use of P45 is in the post.
With my experience, I think Rwanda is safer than London. I feel safe walking around in Kigali.
I expose the real reason that Rwanda is actually a deterrent. The Irish people keep saying no to illegal immigrants. On my panel this evening, I am joined by ex-BBC and ITV political chief John Sargent, apprentice finalist and entrepreneur Joanna Jarju, and journalist Alex Armstrong. Oh yes, and can you work out what is going on here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. The King's on the mend, Humza Yousaf's gone round the bend. Next.
Here are the headlines from the GB newsroom. I'm Tamsin Roberts. The Prime Minister has welcomed the news King Charles is returning to public-facing duties following the positive effect of his cancer treatment. A palace spokesperson says King Charles is greatly encouraged to be resuming some public-facing duties and very grateful to his medical team. He's been receiving outpatient care since February for an undisclosed form of cancer. Rishi Sunak posted on X that it was brilliant news to end the week. These well-wishers outside Buckingham Palace agree.
Yeah, it's great news. It was sad to hear about the cancer diagnosis and what with him and Catherine coming at the same time. So it's great that he's on the mend.
We'll be happy to be out and about and everyone, seeing that he's in good health.
It's good news for him, I suppose, and it's quite favourable news for the nation, I suppose.
The families of 3 men murdered in the Reading terror attack are calling for urgent change after a coroner ruled their deaths were probably avoidable. Friends James Furlong, Dr David Wales and Joseph Richard Bennett were fatally stabbed in June 2020 when Libyan refugee Khairi Sadala targeted them in a town centre park. The coroner said failings by the Home Office and the local NHS community mental health team contributed to their deaths. James Furlong's father, Gary, said he has very little confidence that an attack like this will not happen again. Humza Yousaf says he will not resign as Scotland's First Minister ahead of a crucial test of his leadership next week. He says that as a minority government, his party will need to make some concessions as it negotiates with other parties. It's after the collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deal with the Greens yesterday. But Humza Yousaf says he'll fight on.
I fully intend to not just win that vote, but I intend to fight to make sure that the government stays up, not just the government continues to deliver on the priorities of the people, like, for example, investing in affordable housing. So there's all that political game playing happening from the opposition. It will not be taking part. It will be getting, of course, on with the job. And when the vote comes, I fully intend to win.
The Foreign Office has summoned the Russian ambassador after a British man was allegedly recruited as a Russian spy. 20-year-old Dylan Earle has been charged with conducting hostile activity in the UK to benefit Russia. He's accused of masterminding an arson plot on London businesses. 4 other men were also charged in connection with the same investigation. Well, those are the headlines, and for all the latest, do sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, it's over to Patrick.
Well, long live the King. I'll be honest, I had a message at around 7:30 a.m. tipping me off that we were going to get some news about the King, and I feared the worst. I actually thought there was a good chance that we were going to be doing a very different show this evening, but no. Good news. The statement came from the palace that King Charles is well enough to resume public duties. But when you get an embargoed press release from the palace, they do often put a question and answer section at the bottom. And this is one that stood out for me, OK? So it said, does today's announcement mean His Majesty's treatment for cancer has been successful or has finished? And the answer is this. His Majesty's treatment programme will continue, but doctors are sufficiently pleased with the progress made so far that the King is now able to resume a number of public-facing duties. There was another one. How much longer will His Majesty's treatment continue? The answer was this. It's too early to say, but His Majesty's medical team are very encouraged by the progress made so far and remain positive about the King's continued recovery. So this is a man who is living with cancer. He's not recovered. He may well not be recovered for some time. And he's not out of the woods yet. Look, here's the thing. The King has advertised now that he will be doing public engagements, and he's going to be going to a cancer treatment centre, for example. There'll be several public engagements in the coming weeks as well. And this got me thinking, really, because in recent times, the anti-monarchists have been out in force, haven't they? They've been trying to ruin the coronation. They're throwing eggs at royals in the wake of the Queen's death. They shouted down with the crown at Queen Camilla as she attended a church service, knowing that her husband was being treated for cancer, and so was Princess Catherine. Now, I know what the Not My King Brigade will have taken from today's news. Oh, good, the King will be in public again. We can have another pop at him. If they do that, I think they're disgusting. My message to the Not My King Brigade is this. If you do that, you're going to be the scumbag shouting at an elderly man with cancer, OK? You're the bad guys here, not him. Get a life, get a job, and wind your necks in, at least for a few months, eh? I'm going to be talking now for a bit more on the King's health from Professor Lawrence Young, Professor of Molecular Oncology. Look, thank you very, very much. From a health perspective, what do you make of today's announcement?
Well, it suggests the King is making good progress. He must be feeling well enough to engage in more public-facing duties, so it's a very positive development.
How protected is he going to have to be? There's talk of him being in a COVID-style bubble if he goes to events like Ascot.
Well, a lot of it depends on where he is in his therapy and what type of therapy he's receiving. So it's difficult to speculate. But clearly, if he's going to go out and about over the next few days and weeks, the medical team must be happy that he can mix with people. He'll just have to be careful. He'll be undergoing regular blood tests and scans to make sure things are all okay, and they must be developing in the right direction for this encouraging news today. But he'll just have to be careful. I suspect most of it will be around him not overdoing it, because he's likely to feel very, very tired. And even though he wants to get out and about and get back to business, I think his medical team will have to keep a close eye on him.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I suppose, one of the big things of it, isn't it? That he now is actually trying to push the envelope and get out there and go out and about. It seems very reassuring for us to hear from somebody like yourself that actually this is possibly not a case of, you know, the idea that the treatment is going to continue to have a worse impact on him. It is just more his own fatigue as a result of that treatment, which I suppose means that we're heading in the right direction with the King.
Yeah, and this is really important psychologically. I think anybody with any condition, but particularly with cancer, if you're feeling well enough to start to get back to some degree of normality, it has a very important positive psychological impact, and it does really help you get better. So it is a sort of positive reinforcing thing, and it demonstrates to all of us who have or know people who have cancer that you can start to get back to some degree of normal life, and as I say, that helps in your recovery.
And there were a couple of words that were omitted from this press release today. I can completely understand why they would be, OK? Words like, oh, he's in remission, for example, or obviously he's cured, which he's not yet. He is living with cancer, but that is actually very doable nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, it's common now, and you know, the cancer, like the big C that is the end of your existence, is things have changed. Our attitude to cancer has changed because we can manage it better. And even though in some people we can't cure it, we can keep it at bay. And so for some people, if they can deal with it psychologically, they can live with cancer in the same way that people live with other chronic diseases that need ongoing treatment, like diabetes or arthritis. And so for some people, that is, you know, they can live quite healthy lives, you know, into their 70s, 80s, 90s, and live with cancer rather than die of cancer.
This is massively more reassuring news than what a lot of people were fearing when people first got wind that there was going to be some kind of announcements about the King today. Professor Lawrence Young there, great to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. That's Professor Lawrence Young, who is a Professor of Molecular Oncology. Look, let's just get a final word on this tonight before I move on to some of the evening's other news with my panel. And this is from Ingrid Seward, who's the Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine. Ingrid, thank you very, very much. Today is a good day for the King, a good day for Britain. I'm sure you'll be hoping that those Not My King morons decide to give it a rest for a little while, because he is still dealing with an illness, isn't he?
He's still dealing with an illness, and he appears to be dealing extremely well. I think he comes from the fact that he's extremely strong and fit. I think I understand that will help his treatment enormously. And I think, as your professor was saying, it's the fatigue that can be a brutal thing when you're trying to lead a normal life with cancer. But I think that it's going to really help him psychologically to get out there, and people are going to be giving him enormous support. I mean, I know, as you say, there's an anti-monarchy brigade, but there's been an anti-monarchy brigade since there's been a monarchy. So that is not such a big deal. It has always been there. I feel that Charles is going to get a lot of support from the sort of joyousness of people seeing him and, you know, wishing him well. And I think that's going to be immensely important to him.
Yeah, massively important to the royal family at the moment to have a little bit of good news out there, isn't there, as well, given everything that's been going on. This presumably will be a big boost for William and Kate as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a difficult time. It's a very busy time. But I think a boost for William and Kate. William's out and about. We don't know about Kate. But I feel that the King will definitely... It's a very busy time coming up with the anniversary of D-Day in Normandy, which I know he will be desperate to be a part of. Then there's the big royal season, the Trooping the Colour, the Garter ceremony, Royal Ascot. And then he is hosting the Emperor and Empress of Japan at the end of June. So it's a absolutely packed month for someone that is presumably going to get very tired.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if he gets through all of that, I think that will be absolutely massive, won't it? It's also, I believe, as well, his and Camilla's, is it 19-year wedding anniversary, I think? Is that right? So he's got all that to get through as well. I mean, she's actually been remarkable throughout all of this as well, hasn't she? So, you know, I think... yeah, go on.
I think Camilla's been remarkable throughout the whole of their marriage. She's been a massive support to him, and I think that she, you know, ever since he first went into hospital, and she was, you know, she kept going to visit him, something we're not really used to the royal family doing, and I think she's probably the one that's holding him back and saying, you know, Charles, don't be silly, you know, you're not well, you can't do all these things. But he has been going to church every weekend, so he has been visible. He's not been actually hiding away. And I think that he very much relies on her support in every aspect of his life.
Ingrid, look, thank you very, very much. Pleasure to have you on at the top of the hour this evening. All the best. OK, that is Ingrid Seward, who's the Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine. Right, OK, look, there's some other news in town today. On to another big story, which is Mr Humza Yousaf. Yes, that's right, and let's see what my panel make of that. I'm going to nip over there now. We've got ex-BBC and ITV political chief John Sargent. We've got Apprentice finalist and entrepreneur Joanna Jarju. And, of course, we also have journalist and broadcaster Alex Armstrong. Right, John, I'll start with you. I hope you don't mind me saying you've been around the block a bit politically. Is Humza Yousaf finished?
No, he's not. No, I think that my guess would be, it's only a guess, but in 1 week's time he will still be First Minister. Now,
go on.
Let me tell you the argument.
Go on.
If you look at the Scottish Parliament, a majority are in favour of independence, right? That's about the only thing they can agree on. That's what they want. He has got a very small majority that he's got to beat. He's got to get the Greens back on board, if he can, or he's got to at least get Ash Regan, who is the Alba MSP, who is obviously, she's in favour of independence. Now, he is desperate, right? I'm not saying he has any position of strength. He's a desperate man. What will he do? He'll make desperate concessions, because in any other analysis of it, who benefits by Humza Yousaf going? Well, of course, the people who benefit are the people like me who are dead against Scottish independence.
If he's willing to make any concession, though, which you're right in saying he's going to have to, then there was absolutely no point in doing what he's just done with the Greens.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's obviously shooting himself in the foot left, right and centre. It's like that scooter footage where he's sort of rolling, and just falls off of it. What, I mean, look, I would love to see Humza Yousaf go. I cannot stand him. But he is political gold to the Labour Party and to the Unionists. So I actually wonder why they've called this vote of no confidence. I'm glad that they're showing him for what he is, but he is gold. He will lose a landslide to Unionist parties, and I don't mind whether it's Labour Tories or Liberal Democrats who take over, as long as the Unionist does.
John, I don't think I've ever seen anyone fail upwards quite like Humza Yousaf. He was
Rishi Sunak.
He was but Rishi Sunak actually, to his credit, was successful in business before, wasn't he? Humza Yousaf has basically done naff. When he was Justice Minister, crime went up and he got done for driving without the correct insurance. Health Minister, he had to actually import a new position in his cabinet for the Minister for NHS Recovery when he became First Minister, which doesn't say that he's done particularly well as Health Minister. He's not actually done anything good, has he? And yet here he is, First Minister.
Well, I think that obviously Humza Yousaf was put in this position because he was the continuity candidate after Nicola Sturgeon. And if you look at how much success the SNP have had for so long in Scotland, they were basically desperate to get a Nicola Sturgeon 2.0, and they haven't been able to get that. And I think that Nicola Sturgeon had her own specific USP in the sense of her charisma, and it kind of mirrors really what we've seen in the UK with Boris Johnson starting the whole thing with Rwanda, and then Rishi Sunak has inherited it, not being able to make it land. And then you've got all the progressive policies with the SNP that weren't landing, and then Humza Yousaf hasn't been able to carry that on.
This is a really interesting point because there's a lot of ultra-progressive progressive policies in Scotland there.
Great.
And it turns out they're just deeply unpopular.
No, quite. So, but the two Green ministers have been amazingly powerful within the Scottish government. And you think, well, hold on a moment. They're going to go from that position of power to zero if it goes wrong. I mean, if just think of it in terms of, OK, so the First Minister goes, then what happens? The Greens, who helped get rid of him, that's the whole point, where do they go? Nothing very exciting. Where does Ash Regan go, who is thrilled to bits to be negotiating for the first time? There she is with the First Minister asking for all sorts of deals to be made. He's only got to pick up a few of those, and with the Greens, their position is not so powerful outside government. He can make a deal with them, I would have thought. Now, you may say he's such a useless politician that he's not going to be able to achieve that. All right, but looked at from a distance, from people like me who would love to see him fail, right? I'm a unionist. I don't want Scotland to be independent. That's it. So for people like me, anything which would make that less likely is good. So I'm not arguing in terms of my own interest, but from their point of view, from the people who they have a majority for independence in the Scottish Parliament.
But, they must
for them to give that up just because they want to round, they want to do other things.
It's not going to happen anyway, don't they? I mean, they might have a majority for it in the Scottish Parliament. They're not getting a referendum anytime soon.
And also, he is deeply unpopular. He's got a minus 15% net popularity rating, favourability rating in Scotland. So Scottish people don't like him. They're not happy with these policies. So the SNP must also be asking themselves, a bit like the Tory party have been with Rishi Sunak, should we keep this guy because he's deeply unpopular and he's going to make us all his hostages?
They're not going to succeed. They're not going to succeed without him for the moment.
But this is the issue when you have a political party that's so focused on a single issue like independence, and like when we had the Brexit Party and things like that. Once you get to a point where it's about to fail and the Supreme Court have said that they can't have a second referendum, then where do you go from that? Your base ends up being quite weakened.
I think Kate Forbes would wipe the floor with a lot of the other parties.
She doesn't want gay marriage either, so it's like you have the progressive.
Say that. She didn't.
She said she would vote against it.
But there wasn't going to be a vote on it, and she was not going to say that everybody else had to vote against it either. I mean, the irony is that Humza Yousaf initially missed a vote on gay marriage because he said he had a commitment that he couldn't miss. And then Alex Salmond said, well, actually, he came under.
That's a very strong statement, though.
Pressure.
She acts as if her religion doesn't influence her decisions, but it does. So it's kind of if we don't go with the progressive views,
people don't realise that
go even further back with
Scottish nationalists are actually quite conservative people, believe it or not. I lived up there. I worked alongside a lot of them. They are actually quite deitly naturally conservative with a small c.
But my goodness, they can argue, and the idea that
you're Scottish, John.
I mean, the idea that it would all be lovely.
Okay, all right. Now look. Coming up at 10:30, we are going to have the very first look at tomorrow's front pages. But next, OK, this is interesting. So Rwandan businesswoman Coco Danchuk told me earlier today that the real reason Rwanda can act as a deterrent is... Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. Stay tuned.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
We're now going to talk about Meghan and Harry. There was a polo match they took part in Miami, and we've got Angela Levin, royal correspondent here. So, what have you picked up from this this polo match?
Well, the interesting thing is that the polo thing that's going to be photographed and filmed for Netflix, this is Harry's one.
Yes.
But there was Meghan centre stage. And she stood there holding the treasurer.
Yes.
And actually, who she pushed around was a doctor, Dr. Sophie Chankuka, who's chair of Sudbury, the charity that they're doing it for. And she was asked if she would take the trophy. And she said, yes, that's why she came, because the money from the polo match is going to this charity.
Huh.
And Meghan had to push her out of the way because she wanted to be in the middle. I've never heard such a disgusting, rude thing to do.
That at the end of the day, she's an actress. She knows how to take centre stage.
Yes, but this was bullying. You know,
Actual physical pushed her.
No, she didn't actually physically push her, but she wanted to go next to Harry because it was her charity. And so she bent down under the trophy and then went the other side of Meghan, and then she's all smiling. I mean, that turns my stomach, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody would know that that's not appropriate. Let Harry have a little thing of his own. He scored the goal that made them win, and you'd think she would be really pleased. She pecked his lips, he pecked her lips. It wasn't actually a great passionate kiss, as the paper said, because it didn't last more than a second. You know, she's crushed him to nothing.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News. The
People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel. And from Thursday, the 2nd of May,
the people decide.
As the country heads to the polls in a rush of elections, we'll take you through the night as the first results come in.
And we'll pick up at breakfast
with the very best guests and analysis. And on the weekend, the results won't stop, and neither will we. We'll explore what it all means for you as we look ahead to the general election.
Continuing coverage live from Thursday, the 2nd of May at midnight on GB News.
All right, welcome back. So, the UK government's Rwanda bill finally passed, apparently clearing the way for asylum seekers to be sent to the African country for processing. Now, it seems the bill is already acting as somewhat of a deterrent, because here is what a couple of Channel migrants had to say about it earlier this week.
I'm very stressed, he tells me. I don't know what to do. All I can think about is this letter and Rwanda.
Rwanda is not a safe place.
Does it make you regret coming to the UK?
Yeah, if before I came here, you say that, they sent to me in Rwanda. I never come here.
Right, well, job done then, I suppose, in that sense. But concerns have been raised about whether Rwanda is a safe country to send people to. I got an insight on that earlier today. So I spoke with Coco Danchuk, who runs a business in Rwanda, and her husband, of course, the former MP Simon Danchuk. Now, listen closely to this, because it's fascinating to hear about the country, but it also reveals what the actual real deterrent is for people being sent to Rwanda. So here we go. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us here in our Westminster studio today. It's great to see you both again. I would just like to start by asking you, Coco, if that's OK. You said that Rwanda is safer than parts of the UK. What do you mean by that? How is it safer?
Yes, but with my experience, I think Rwanda is safer than London. I feel safe walking around in Kigali, walking around in Rwanda, because it's a really safe country, and they take zero tolerance on crime, and you can play stupid in Rwanda, you get arrested immediately. So, yeah, that's my view, yeah.
So you think anyone who commits a crime in Rwanda is locked up straight away?
Yeah, they take zero tolerance in Rwanda on crime. You can play stupid, yeah. You have to follow the rules, you have to, you know, to be like, to do what they want to do. Like if they set these certain rules, you have to follow them. That's what we do as citizens. So you can't play stupid, yeah.
There's maybe a bit more law and order in Rwanda, certainly, than London. Simon, there are reports that you're considering, if you do decide to start a family in future, that you might move to Rwanda or certainly spend a bit of time in Rwanda. I suppose that implies that, for you, it might be a better place to raise kids, maybe?
Oh, yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. We already spend quite a bit of time there. Coco has a business in Rwanda that she manages remotely, and we'll continue to spend more time there. And as you've pointed out, we ought to have a family, and we'd be pleased to bring the children up there, no doubt about that. We'd have family around us. It's a very safe place. I've 2 children from a previous marriage. They've both been to Rwanda. They've been around the country and enjoyed it. The older one has been on a couple of occasions. So, yeah, no, it's very safe, and it is somewhere you would want to bring up children.
I mean, it's interesting because it's certainly around a lot of major cities in the UK now. I know a huge amount of parents are very worried about when they send their children to school. By no means can everyone afford private school. In fact, most people can't afford private school. And you look at the state school system and sometimes you think, well, I wouldn't necessarily want to, you know, send my child there. But what kind of life, Coco, do you think that asylum seekers would actually have in Rwanda?
I think they will have a good life in Rwanda, but they will have to work at it. So, and especially for those who they can't go back where they came from, I think it's good for them to live in the better life in Rwanda. So, yeah.
You said they would have to work at it a bit.
They have to work at it. It's not like here they live on the benefits. So they will have to work for it. So, and then get, you know, money to live for living. Yeah.
But do you think they'll be safe, presumably?
Definitely. Rwanda is a very safe country. And then, like, if they came from in dangerous country, so they will live in a better life in a safe country, in a beautiful country, yeah.
And I suppose there's potentially a bit more of a social contract there between the asylum seekers, Simon, in Rwanda than you would have here. The idea is, Coco is saying that you know, they can be safe, but they're going to have to get on with their life and not languish on benefits.
Yeah, and that's where the deterrent is, I think, because you know, I'm a former MP and I've met many asylum seekers in Rochdale. When I represented the town, they would present themselves at my surgery, and there's no doubt about it that some illegal immigrants are coming here because of the welfare state, because it's easier. Some are even coming here to commit crimes. Now, if some of those people are sent, this is where the deterrent comes in. If you get sent to Rwanda, you don't have a strong welfare state. As Coco's pointed out, you're going to have to work, you know, and that will be a deterrent to some people. And if you try and commit crimes in Rwanda, they'll come down on you like a ton of bricks, and that will be a deterrent to some of the illegal immigrants coming into this country. So I think it will put people off coming in the small boats, no doubt about it.
And so really the deterrent there is not just that it's very far away, it's the fact that you are actually going to have to work hard, abide by laws, you're not going to get an easy ride, but you can have, you know, everything that life has to offer you if you do go there. I mean, how do you feel, Coco, when you hear people in this country saying, oh, Rwanda's not a safe country?
It bothers me, seriously, because I feel so bad about it. Because some people, they say that, and those people, they have never even been in the country. Rwanda is a beautiful home, it's a beautiful country, it's very safe, it's well run. I mean, there's nothing, you know, to worry about it. Rwanda is a beautiful home and it's a beautiful country, is very safe. Yeah.
And the Rwandans, to be fair, the government have bent over backwards for us. They probably can't believe that we've not actually got any planes off the ground yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Rwandan government's been very helpful in many respects. And they do this already for the United Nations. That's the irony of it. There are asylum seekers in Libya that are sent to Rwanda and looked after very well and dealt with. So why we can't do it from this country is just an absolute nonsense.
No, absolutely. And no, I mean, it's obviously something that is, you know, is going to be a massive issue at the next election. And just one final one with you, Coco, if I may. We're expecting planes to maybe take off at the end, well, a bit later on this year, aren't we? Really? Would you be happy, do you think, to see people sent to Rwanda?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea for both sides. First of all, it will put them off coming here, and secondly, is for those people who coming from the dangerous country, so they will live a better life. I think it's really good, and I will be happy. I will be pleased to see them in a beautiful home. Yeah, which where I come from, yeah.
Lovely. OK, well, look, thank you very, very much, both of you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you both back on my show as well. And, look, we'll have to stay in touch on this because, you know, this has been a massive issue at the election, massive issue politically as well. So, yeah, thank you very much, both of you. Great stuff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, look, thank you very much to Coco and Simon there. I thought that was the real crux of it, wasn't it? What is the major deterrent going to be for sending people to Rwanda? OK, it's not going to be that it's far away. It's the fact that when they are there, they cannot languish on benefits, on a welfare state. They're going to have to crack on. And let's be honest, that's the main reason they're coming here, isn't it? Travelling through a load of safe European countries to get to us. Why? Because they get the easiest ride. Look, coming up, the Irish people keep saying no to illegal migrants. Just have a look at this. But next, some huge stories around today. Myself and my wonderful panel will be showing you absolutely everything that the front pages have to offer. I'll see you in a sec.
Hello again, good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another cold night tonight and rain will spread into the south and east through this weekend with the best of the dry weather around the north and west once again, much as it has been throughout this week. But to the south we've got low pressure arriving and some weather fronts through this evening. So for some heavy rain for many southern counties of England through this evening as well as southern areas of Wales by tomorrow morning. There's going to be a lot of cloud around, so it will be a milder night across the south. However, in the north, with cloud clearing and it turning much drier, it's going to be another cold start on Saturday morning. We could be down as low as -4 or 5, so expect frost rurally for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there will be, as today, lots of sunshine around, particularly across the north and west. The best of the sunshine will be through the morning. Cloud will bubble up into the afternoon. But across central areas, parts of Wales and into the Midlands, it's going to be quite a cloudy and cold feeling day. And into the southeast, we'll start to see some showery outbreaks of rain, but in any sunshine, it will start to feel that much milder with highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Now on Sunday, as I said, it is turning much wetter. This swathe of rain moves up to the north and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, and it's time to bring you a first look at tomorrow's front pages. There we go. We start with the Times. King returns to public life. That picture now of the King and Queen Camilla. Doctors encouraged by his response to treatment. There is a theme here, everybody, but we're going to try and liven it up. So, Daily Mail. Yeah, there we go. Smiles that say the King is going back to work, all right. The Sun. Any guesses? Yeah. King is back in the saddle. Good. He's on the mend, is set to return. D-Day is in the diary, so is Ascot. We'll go to the Telegraph. And that's the King again. There we go. The return of the King. Public duties will resume on Tuesday after doctors say they are pleased with his progress. Camilla Tominey, our very own, here has got a little article at the bottom. Well, it's more than a little article. It's a page lead. But the Queen has been a rock for the King during his toughest test. As far as I'm aware, she will be on your screens this Sunday, as ever, lighting them up. So tune in for that. Let's go to the Daily Express now. Caring King joins Cancer Crusade. Compassionate King Charles is vowing to support fellow cancer sufferers. Yep, I think that could be obviously a huge element to this, couldn't it, as well? Well, the Daily Star have done something completely different. Curse of King Tut's tomb. Cracked it, mate. Egyptologists pin the blame on nuclear leaks. The mysterious curse of the pharaohs, they say, which has claimed numerous lives, has finally been solved after mummy boffins pointed the finger of blame at leaking radiation. Thank you very much to the Daily Star for putting a little bit of chlorine in our swimming pool there. Right, so look, I'm going to ask a question now just about all of them. Is it right, do you think, John, that the King's all over the front pages?
I do. I can see that they all do the same research. They know the extent to which people find a lot of the modern world very confusing and difficult to understand. Here is a story. Yes. Lots of people sort of relax when they see a royal story because they think, we know who the King is, we know who the Queen is, we know about this, we know about the cancer thing. And it's such an easy thing then for editors to think, well, now, come on, now, we can't stop this. This is what people want, give it to them.
Joanna, what do you make of it? You know, should it be an automatic front-page story when we all get a press release saying the King's all right?
I mean, I just don't see why. I understand, obviously, if it's a big story and it's the diagnosis. Obviously, with Kate, she was all over all the front pages here and globally, fine. But to kind of say that he's going back to public life, we've seen him a bit anyway. He obviously went to the Easter service. But one thing that I actually found a bit weird, that I think that people who are anti-monarchists will find weird, is that obviously they were talking about he's going to sit separately. And then obviously that echoes when the Queen was sitting separately during COVID and everybody felt sorry for her. But then there were pictures of him then shaking hands with people in the public outside afterwards, which I found a bit odd. I think the most interesting thing for me, and I do wish them well, both him and Princess Catherine, but the most interesting thing about these stories to me is the whole PR element and how the two houses between the King and Queen and the Prince and Princess of Wales have actually navigated through this. The King obviously has come out shining more, apart from that little blip that just confused me. Why are you shaking hands with people if you sat by yourself? But obviously he's encouraging people when it comes to the cancer sufferers and things like that. So he's come off well.
That is interesting. A marked difference, actually, in the navigation of the choppy waters that are PR, Alex, between the King and the Prince.
Well, obviously, the King's got the best PR in the land, hasn't he? And so he should, you know, so the royal family should put the King first. He is the head of the household at the end of the day. I'm sure William and Kate have probably refreshed their team a little bit since some of those mistakes from before. But, you know, this is a good story. I think people loved reading about the royals. I think people love the royal family, and therefore they are always going to be on the front pages. I don't think that's ever going to change while I'm alive, I suspect. I do have to say the Daily Star one has really got me, though, about the mummy boffins. Yeah. I would really love to know more about these mummy boffins.
No, I don't want to know any more about
this nuclear radiation leaking out of their tombs. I mean, what's been going on there?
I don't want to hear
John,
any more about it at all.
Could you just say the words mummy boffins to me?
Mummy boffin, please.
Lovely.
I tell you what, I think what is interesting is that I think what they felt with Kate's broadcast, they were worried about whether or not how it would work, what would be the response. So, do you remember at the time they were saying, "Oh well, the royal family are in trouble now, aren't they?" And I think the response, the public response, and of course the media response, they were thrilled by it. I think it really sort of almost took them aback because they were thinking this is awful. We've got to keep going. We've got to reduce monarchy and so on. Instead, the public clearly thought, "This is it. Get behind them." And I think that the temptation then to say, right, so you think cancer bad? No, cancer can be very useful way of communicating with the public, and this is what they're saying.
You're right,
tonight.
and it's really good that they are communicating when we get, because before the criticism was we're not hearing enough, we can't then criticise them. But they are, but they're saying, look, he's going back to duty. So if he had started doing it and hadn't communicated, the criticism, well, why didn't you tell us?
Well,
they can't win, can they?
All right. Now, look, something that certainly took quite a few people aback. Now, you might have missed this, actually, but we're going to have a little look at this video now. I'll show this to you. So this is what happened when MP and GB News presenter, star, Jacob Rees-Mogg, gave some of his time up to go and talk to students in Cardiff. So Jacob Rees-Mogg is somewhere in the middle of that melee. He's being surrounded by police and security officers. You've got the pro-Palestine brigade there and some other people waving what appear to be, kind of union flags. So that was Jacob in the middle of all of that, getting shouted and accosted. Alex, is that free speech or is that, intimidation of Jacob Rees-Mogg?
It's totally intimidating and aggressive, isn't it? And there's nothing about it that's going to achieve anything other than perhaps make Jacob Rees-Mogg even more determined to not support their cause. These people do damage like this all the time. We were talking about other organisations that do this that have ruined causes like the Green Movement, which has some very sensible arguments, but has been destroyed by things like Insulate Britain gluing themselves to roads.
Well, Insulate Prison now,
Insulate Prison, that's right.
Yeah. I think we would need to know a bit more context because these people are demonstrating with their flags and things. Do they expect Rees-Mogg to arrive? And if he suddenly does arrive, do you expect them to suddenly sort of stand still and clap him or
my
say how wonderful?
Understanding is he's done his talk, because he does the university tours. And it's not the first time, by the way. I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg has been hounded numerous times. Sure. I will just say he usually deals with it incredibly well. I think I just wonder, Joanne, if in this day and age now, if there's a bit more of an increased threat as well, like it just feels to me as though things have got more intimidating. Maybe if there are more people who might be. It only takes one nutter there with a knife, doesn't it? I'll just say it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can understand exactly, especially if you're a public figure and a politician, they are at increased risk. I will say that it's not like it just kind of goes to one side of politics. Angela Rayner was getting it when she was doing a speech, somebody kind of shouting things at her, and it is just such a highly emotive topic, and I do think it's a shame when somebody, goes too far as to actually potentially intimidate a politician. So they do ruin it for the higher cause. But then also they're thinking, well, me banging on Jacob Rees-Mogg's car, I'm protesting against people dying in Gaza. So that's how they kind of see it.
If this was a female...
That doesn't make it OK, by the way.
But, if this was a female MP, people would be saying, well, this is harassment. You shouldn't treat women like this. So I think we've also got to bear in mind that there's been 2 MPs that have been murdered in the last few years by extremists. And we've seen how these protesters behaved in some recent, throwing missiles at each other, attacking the police. It does take one person to do the wrong thing.
It does. And
I just remember as a student, if you'd shown me those pictures, I'd have said, oh, yeah, it's quite routine. What were they up to? Where were they? I wouldn't have thought, this is amazing. It's a complete change of attitude. We're talking about years ago. Yeah. There's always been demonstrations.
That's a very, very good point, because I almost feel as if when it is about climate change or Palestine, they make it into a bigger thing, as if they're the only type of group that do it, when it's more kind of like a left-wing cause.
Well, it's mostly
I think they make it a bigger...
left-wing, isn't it? I think, really, it's probably...
No, but I think it's made into a bigger issue.
All right, OK. All right, coming up, the big climax part of tonight's show. We will reveal who's today's greatest Britain and Union jackass and the lengths some absolute idiots will go to in order to break the law. Take a look at this. All right, if you can't quite figure out what's going on there, don't worry, because I'll tell you in just a couple of minutes.
Tubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Organisations, plural, because there's loads of people doing this. The organisations are charging schools to be part of this odd league table about who's trying to outdo who when it comes to who is more trans inclusive with the kids than the next person. There's something that makes me uneasy about this.
Supposing a child comes home and says, you think, oh, I've done well today. He said, well, how have you done? He said, well, I was #1 painter, or I was #1 reader. No, I wasn't. I was made LGBT champion. This is a 4- and 5-year-old. Look, I can understand this, actually, as we develop into the secondary school. I can understand more debates taking place. I cannot understand why we have to thrust it at young children. And I think if you ask the parents, they'd be hostile to it. And what about the role the teacher has to play in all this?
Society has been one way, the pendulum is swinging the other way, and they're pushing it very far in order to kind of proliferate change. Mm-hmm. And this is probably the toughest period in that evolutionary process, because the LGBTQ+ community is saying that you've got to really rage against the machine to get people to listen. Because put it like this now, even this conversation, the whole country is listening, the whole world is listening. These are the kinds of eyeballs and ears they haven't had before. And there's going to be friction. There's going to be a locking of heads in the process to getting to a point where you establish a new equilibrium where they feel more incorporated. Like I've said, the greatest force of allies that the LGBTQ+ community has always had is heterosexual women. What you're moving towards now is doing things that is beginning to turn them from allies into people who feel that, oh, for you to thrive, I'm being deprived, and that's a problem. When they realize you're alienating allies, they will understand you've got to recalibrate to have that kind of understanding between both parties.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. I have got a couple more front pages for you now. So we are going to start with the I, which is toxic gas surge from US-style chicken farms supplying UK supermarkets. So interesting for the eyes to go off on that particular one. We have also got The Guardian, which is scale of teacher shortage crisis in schools revealed. Interesting there that neither of them have decided to go off on the King, breaking the mould for all of the other national newspapers, apart from the Daily Star, which decided to tell us all about radiation in the pyramids. So there we go. I am, as ever, joined by my fabulous panel. We're going to whiz you through now to another important video that I saw last night. It was kicking off in Ireland. So where people in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, and I hope I've said that right, rioted yesterday at a house earmarked to house asylum seekers, and the police, it's fair to say, got a bit shirty as well. We can have a look at this. So, look, that was just one of many scenes that took place there. The police were accused of essentially going house to house and looking for people. And the Irish have taken a radically different stand, Alex, to the issue of illegal immigration and migrant hotels than we have over here.
Yeah, they have. And they you know, the reason why people are behaving like this is no one's being consulted about it. They're putting these centres in places where there's possibly small towns and villages, and in some cases, we even saw this in Britain, where the migrants will outnumber the local population. There's no attempt at assimilation. It's very dangerous in a lot of cases. We only saw a few months ago the riots in Dublin. And so we really do need to have a more honest conversation and a more public conversation, politicians to people, as to why this is happening and what this long-term solution is, because people think this is permanent.
Joanna, I worry that we're going to see stuff like that here.
But we shouldn't, because what do they think that they're going to achieve? That's my question, you know, when I see something like this. No, but it's like, really, they're doing it because obviously they love their area. A lot of people say, I love my country, that's why I'm doing it, or I want my country back, etc., etc. So then what do? Start burning bits of your country and start rioting, kicking off with the police, who your taxpayers' money. And it just reminds me of when people were, you know, rioting and fighting with the police, scrapping at the cenotaph when they were against the pro-Palestine movement. People on St. George's Day the other day, I know that wasn't as extensive as other riots that we've seen, but I just never understand, and I empathise with people in terms of their issues that they have, especially in local areas, but I always think, what is this going to, like, change?
John, I mean, like I said, yeah, the people of Ireland have taken a much more strong stance, haven't they? I mean,
well, we've had more trouble, more riots. I mean, no, I think what's interesting is that what you've got to try and do, if you can, is to make sure there aren't concentrated areas that, in a sense, in people's minds, that's where they live. Once you do that, there's potentially danger, because people then say, right, get them out, you know, set fire to that area. So it's very important. I know you know, if you go back a long time in Liverpool, there was always trouble between Protestants and Catholics. And the local council just simply said, when people came and said, can we live with other Catholics or live with other Protestants? And they said, no, it's just in the order in which you apply.
Yeah.
And they kept that rigidly. So you had these large areas, council estates, people longing to collaborate and be together, but in fact it was stopped, just spread out.
Okay. All right, now we are going to have to rattle through this now. So no one likes a speed camera, do they, really? But nonetheless, we obviously can't condone this completely shameful display of downright blatant criminality, can we? That is being... Let's keep it... If we can keep it on repeat, it'd be great. So, yeah, good. The drone is hovering over what appears to be a speed camera with what appears to be some kind of dustbin beneath it, right? I don't know whether it's a speed camera or a ULEZ camera. Again, we do not condone this behaviour. It is criminality and it must be condemned. They're plonking it on the top of it there. It's a novel way of doing things. It attracted hundreds of thousands of views, this on social media earlier on. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's novel, but obviously, John, we can't condone this kind of stuff, can we?
We certainly can't condone it, and I can't reveal that I know what this is all about. Because when I was sent this, I asked the producer, what was that about?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm the wrong person. You lot can go puzzling over it, but I know the answer.
You're just absolving yourself of all
I know the answer.
Yeah. John.
Yeah. I know.
You protested far too much, John.
You see, I far more enjoy watching this form of protest against the establishment than I do seeing people waving flags and attacking each other in the street. Yeah. I mean, this is hilarious. I mean, we don't condone it, as you said, Patrick, but it is funny, isn't it? People are getting very creative when it comes to protesting for the things they hate.
When I was growing up, when I was younger, there was a particular road where, for ages, we thought that there was a woman who was, like, had a mobile speaker, and it turned out it was a hairdryer. She was just really angry that people were speeding down her cul-de-sac, and she was there, and people would slow down, you'd see them all braking. Right, OK, that's enough about that. Again, I just want to emphasise... Oh, OK. Before we do that, I want to emphasise, don't do what you just saw on your screen there. It is criminal behaviour. Please, for the love of God, don't do it. Right, Greatest Britain Union Jackass time. John, who's your Greatest Britain?
My Greatest Britain is Steve Young. You don't know who he is? He's the guy that, here you can see him, he's right there receiving this trial dose of the anti-cancer vaccine.
OK.
And he's a decent guy, because he knows how it may help others, even if it may not help him.
OK, good stuff, Joanna.
Mine is a Syrian refugee couple who were based in Yorkshire. They came to the UK and started a cheese business and appeared in Aldi's Next Big Thing, where they were selected for their cheese pastries to be listed in more than 1,000 stores. So a positive refugee story.
And a good business story.
Yeah.
OK, go on.
Yep. Mine's Douglas Ross, the leader of the Conservatives up in Scotland, for starting to shove the knife into Humza Useless.
OK, all right. So today's Greatest Britain is... Douglas Ross. Yes, there we go. Obviously, it was always going to be him, wasn't it? Right, OK, let's be quite quick about this now. Union Jackass time. John?
Angela Van den Boog.
Oh, dear.
God, you know, she's no woman. I can't say this. I felt like saying something, another way of describing her name. But no, she's the post office woman who's been appearing for the inquiry. This is her second day. And throughout, she said, I can't recall this, don't know that. And the whole business seems to be somebody, a lawyer has presumably advised her, if you don't keep on saying this nonsense, you may go to prison.
OK.
But as for someone watching it, it's terrible. She's a jackass.
All right, Joanna.
Mine is Chris Philp. He's definitely embarrassed himself as a union jackass this week. He didn't know the difference between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. He was questioned on it on Question Time, and he just doesn't have a clue.
We do right. Do we? We're going to very quick clip. Very quick clip. Go on, just give it a go. Go on.
No, I think there's an exclusion on people from Rwanda being sent to Rwanda.
They're not from Rwanda, they're from Congo.
They're from Congo.
And they're supposedly warring these people from Rwanda. Are they then going to be sent to Rwanda if they came here on a crossing?
Yeah, there we go. Right, very quick.
Mine's Andrew Neil for pushing more censorship despite being the man who says he's all about freedoms.
OK, today's winner of the Union Jackass is Chris Philp MP for not knowing that Congo was a different country to Rwanda. I mean, good grief. Right, thank you very much, everybody. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who's watched this show as well. It's Headliners next. I will see you on Monday at 9 p.m. Take it easy.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather update. It's going to be another cold night tonight and rain will spread into the south and east through this weekend with the best of the dry weather around the north and west once again, much as it has been throughout this week. But to the south we've got low pressure arriving and some weather fronts through this evening. So some heavy rain for many southern counties of England through this evening as well as southern areas of Wales by tomorrow morning. There's going to be a lot of cloud around, so it will be a milder night across the south. However, in the north, with cloud clearing and it turning much drier, it's going to be another cold start on Saturday morning. We could be down as low as -4 or 5, so expect frost rurally for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But there will be, as today, lots of sunshine around, particularly across the north and west. The best of the sunshine will be through the morning. Cloud will bubble up into the afternoon. But across central areas, parts of Wales and into the Midlands, it's going to be quite a cloudy and cold feeling day. And into the southeast, we'll start to see some showery outbreaks of rain, but in any sunshine, it will start to feel that much milder with highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Now on Sunday, as I said, it is turning much wetter. This swathe of rain moves up to the north and east of the UK, bringing outbreaks of rain across many eastern areas, but particularly across the southeast throughout the morning. That area of rain will push away to the east for Sunday evening and into Monday. Then we pick up a southerly wind, which is going to pick up our temperatures closer to 19 degrees for Tuesday.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Meghan's launched her new lifestyle range, starting with jams, and it's called American Riviera Orchard. Apparently, it's been made from organic fruits grown in Meghan and Harry's Montecito gardens. If we can believe it, I reserve an air of scepticism. But she sent out 50 jars of this jam to influencers and celebrity friends in the hope of trying to boost some sales to her product. But it's ended up winning for King Charles because fans have gone to Highgrove website and King Charles's jam has sold out.
So why did they go?
Has gone through the roof.
Why did they go to the Highgrove website?
Well, I think it's a bit of a blow against Meghan because they're saying we don't want your jam. We're going to go and get the king. So it just shows how popular the king is. This is what she's always wanted. Her dream has been to be like this Gwyneth Paltrow style lifestyle guru. She's always loved Gwyneth's website Goop. When she set up the TIG, which was her website when she was still in Suits as a working actress, that was the brand, the style of brand that she was going for, was this Gwyneth style, New York elite, very princessy. So this is her chance now by trying to cash in on her royal title, because she is now a duchess, so she's using that to try and elevate her brand. And she's really now trying to carve out herself as this new Martha Stewart.
And she's coming out with the cooking show as well on Netflix. She's coming out with the cooking show, and I mean, to be fair to Meghan, she has always tried to say that she's into healthy eating, organic food, cooking, but I don't see this being a success. It just will not happen for her, because she's just burnt too many bridges. People just don't believe in her brand. They don't think she's authentic. So, are you an actress? Are you a guru? Are you a duchess? Are you a philanthropist? Who are you, Meghan?
Who actually are you? This is what we're asking. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think Meghan really knows who she is.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel. Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Good evening, I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Here are the headlines. The Prime Minister has welcomed the news King Charles is returning to public-facing duties following the positive effect of his cancer treatment. A palace spokesperson says King Charles is greatly encouraged to be resuming some public-facing duties and very grateful to his medical team. He's been receiving outpatient care since February for an undisclosed form of cancer. Rishi Sunak posted on X that it was brilliant news to end the week. These well-wishers outside Buckingham Palace agree.
Yeah, it's great news. I mean, it was sad to hear about the cancer diagnosis and what with him and Catherine coming at the same time. So it's great that he's on the mend.
We'll be happy to be out and about and everyone, you know, seeing that he's in good health.
It's good news for him, I suppose, and it's quite favourable news for the nation, I suppose.
The families of 3 men murdered in the Reading terror attack are calling for urgent change after a coroner ruled their deaths were probably avoidable. Friends James Furlong, Dr David Wales and Joseph Ritchie Bennett were fatally stabbed in June 2020 when Libyan refugee Khairi Sadala targeted them in a town centre park. The coroner said failings by the Home Office and the local NHS community mental health team contributed to their deaths. James Furlong's father, Gary, said he has very little confidence that an attack like this will not happen again. Humza Yousaf says he will not resign as Scotland's First Minister ahead of a crucial test of his leadership next week. He says that as a minority government, his party will need to make some concessions as it negotiates with other parties. It's after the collapse of the SNP's power-sharing deal with the Greens yesterday. But Humza Yousaf says he'll fight on.
I fully intend to not just win that vote, but I intend to fight to make sure that the government stays, not just the government continues to deliver on the priorities of the people, like, for example, investing in affordable housing. So there's all that political game playing happening from the opposition that will not be taking part in it. We'll be getting, of course, on with the job, and when the vote comes, I fully intend to win.
The Foreign Office has summoned the Russian ambassador after a British man was allegedly recruited as a Russian spy. 20-year-old Dylan Earle has been charged with conducting hostile activity in the UK to benefit Russia. He's accused of masterminding an arson plot on London businesses. 4 other men were also charged in connection with the same investigation. Well, those are the top stories, and for all the latest, do sign up to GB News Alerts. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's time for headliners.